Good evening. Great to be here. My third time down in San Diego. What a place. Full of great chiropractic, great looking people. A lot of vitality in this town. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be going out sailing with on the chase boat with the Team New Zealand crew for the America's Cup World Series, which is down here for the week. So if you've never seen boats like that, I mean, you've never seen them before because they're just a whole new technology. And I think the final's on Sunday, and you've never seen boats this fast. So if you get a chance, go and check it out. We could talk about one of two things tonight. We'd like to talk about philosophy, or we'd like to talk about politics. Okay, I vote we do both because they're actually interrelated. How's that? I got an email from a student at a chiropractic college in the United Kingdom, Anglo-European school, and this guy wrote to me and he said, I would love you to come and speak on campus. It was a month ago in England. And I wrote back to him and said, you know what, it's probably appropriate you run it through the president of the school. You know, that's sort of the protocol. So I wrote the president a letter and it went something like this. And this is a metaphor for what's happening in chiropractic, which is a metaphor for what the t-shirt thing's about. And it can serve as an intro to our discussion. This is back on the 12th of July. The president's name is Dr. Ken Val of the Anglo-European Chiropractic School. Dear Dr. Val, I trust this finds you well. I've been invited by some of your students to speak with them while I'm in the UK later this year, which was last month. I mentioned to them it would be courtesy to advise you this invitation to obtain your blessing. I was surprised to hear that I was not welcome on campus and the reasons given. As I found this most surprising, I thought I would write to you and see what, if any, the issues were, as I don't rely on second-hand information. Thank you in advance. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Brian. Dear Brian, I'm surprised that you would accept to speak to our students without consulting me first. And no, I'm not in favour of subluxation-based chiropractic and therefore would not invite you on campus. Best wishes, Ken. Dear Dr. Val, thank you for your reply. To clarify, ... I have not accepted an invitation to speak to your students. I have been invited and subsequently asked them to speak with you first. If protocol in the United Kingdom is that I should have asked you first rather than send the students to you, I apologise. If I had accepted the invitation, which is still pending, I do not know what I would speak about. For a chiropractic college president to dismiss a colleague due to some views they may have or don't have is a sad day for higher education. Isn't this the purpose of higher education? As a practicing chiropractor of 20 years, as a committed educationalist for the past 9 years, and as a past president of the Australian Spinal Research Foundation and committed to research, your response appears bordering on bigotry. If we change the name subluxation to a more contemporary name, I would be in favour of that if the new name actually advanced the profession. If, however, we are redefining the clinical entity that chiropractors adjust in the absence of understanding it, this would be to minimise the opportunity to help humankind. However, a rose is a rose by any other name. I draw your attention to published papers of Dr. Heidi Harvick, DC PhD from New Zealand, that I supported for many years in her neurophysiology research. I note your website, your core values, which include, quote, building constructive, collaborative relationships and engaging diversity, end quote. If the issue of me not being welcomed on campus is because I offended you over protocol, again, I apologise. As I mentioned, I've not accepted the invitation yet. If my presence contradicts your core values, which we mentioned, and you choose to ban me from addressing your students, then we have far wider problems in the profession. They may choose to invite me to an off-campus after-hours event. I would like to extend an open invitation to you to visit Life West in San Francisco, speak with our students and faculty, and share your research updates. It would also be my pleasure to take you and your wife out to dinner when visiting San Francisco. That is what colleagues do. I look forward to your reply. Sincerely, Brian Kelly. Never heard from the guy. You know, we're at a crossroads. Someone mentioned that earlier. Where's Joe? Came to Joe's office. Joe's office, if you haven't been to his office, is not at a crossroads at all. You walk in, it's like the place is in alignment. But clearly in this profession, we're at another crossroads. And the question is, where will we be in the next few years? And what part of the solution or the problem will you play? And I can't answer that for you. And students come up and they say, well, Dr. Kelly, where will chiropractic be in 30 years? And I say, great, where are you going to take it? You know what I'm saying? It's like some saviour's going to come along. And so you only have leaders if you have constituents or followers. And so people get elected to office or they carry a torch for a period of time. But this profession is a movement. And if there was no chiropractors left on the planet to put their flag up and say we're going to stand for chiropractic, guess what? The patients would do it for us. The patients would do it for us. How do we know that? because in the early part and the later part of the 20th century, when chiropractors went to jail for practicing chiropractic or medicine without a license, the patients picketed the jails. They stood outside and they said, "Free our doctor." And that T-shirt, nearly 500 chiropractors went to jail for practicing chiropractic without a license. And it's amazing the gift we've got in our hands, the torch that we've been given. And people say, "Well, I can only work 2.5 days a week because it's my lifestyle." And I'm going, you haven't got time to work 2.5 days a week when most people in your community are dying. Their spirit is dying, they're dying on the inside, and you haven't shown up to tell them the story. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think we've got some work to do. I'd like to take you on a little journey tonight. And one of the things I want to get into this evening is the mind, right? Because someone asked me today, they said, well, how are we going to take chiropractic forward? Or what would it take to change and get to a tipping point? It's going to take us individually thinking a little differently. Or maybe thinking a lot differently, or maybe just thinking, right? Fair game? So I bought a few photos. Where are we? I bought a few other things, but I bought a few photos. So I started my career at age 7 going to a chiropractor. They were quacks back then, and I went along because I had tonsillitis. And after 30 lots of tonsillitis and 30 lots of antibiotics, I said, great, time for a new clinical trial. We saw a chiropractor, knew nothing about it, cognitively, but my health status improved over a period of time. Graduated from a chiropractic school in Australia, bought a little office there. It was 597 square foot. We owned that for 8 years, maybe 7.5 years, and it was more profitable at the end of that than when we left. It was the most profitable thing I ever owned. It was kind of fun. When we first bought it, there were some 300 patient files, and only 7 of the people ever materialized. But we kind of went to work and got started, and people said, we wanted to be an open plan because we went to a seminar, and they said, if you want to be successful, go open plan. So we did that for a while, and I just didn't like it. Like, who's tried something and they don't actually like it? Like group sex, like just not for me, right? Tough crowd in San Diego, man. Tough crowd. Okay. So we tried that, and it was like, this wasn't my gig, right? So we tried different things, and then someone said, "Hey, is that your baby in the photo there?" And my girlfriend at the time, she was my CA, and I said, "Well, no, it's not our child." And they said, "Why not?" I go, "We haven't got any kids yet." So we said, "We better get to work and have kids." So we did, and these were our 2 kids, our first kids. And here's what's amazing: you talk about time going fast. My son back then, he was like 3. Today, he's turned 18 last month, and today he played in a men's cricket grade. He was the youngest guy out of 6 teams, and he got man of the match performance, and he's like 18. And he wants to play cricket on the world stage. That's his goal. Like, cricket's mainly played in the Commonwealth countries. There's now a competition in India called the IPL. You can go there and make $1 million in 2 weeks, which it's a big thing in cricket, right? His goal is to get there and play in that tournament. It's amazing. And he'll do it because he has no doubt at all. And I listened to a sociologist recently talk about this thing called hope, right? She said, why do kids today get to college and they fail a test, right? They fail an exam, and then they go and their parents are on the phone going, my son Johnny, age 19, failed the test. What's going on? Can you believe it? That happens at colleges these days. Or students at chiropractic school fail an exam and they sue the college. Can you believe it? And what this woman said was that the 20-somethings of today have never had failure, and so they don't know what it is to then go on and succeed because everything's been just like gratification. And so people who have hope have experienced failure. And at 15, my son experienced failure like you can't believe in a cricket tournament, and he was like rock bottom. And as a parent, I saw him then, I thought, man, this is tough to watch. Like, it couldn't have gone worse every day for 7 days of this tournament. And now he's 2 steps away from playing for his country in the men's league. And today was the next step towards that. So we know the power of the mind is amazing, right? B.J. Palmer never had any doubt he was going to take this thing around the globe, did he? And yet there are people in this room who are probably going, well, I don't know if chiropractic can help someone with cancer. Or I don't know what I'd do if someone had such and such. Or I can only see 40 people a week or 40 people a day. In Australia there was a group, these people were amazing. They had such low self-esteem, they decided to form a new association, right? It was called the LPN group. Have you heard of this? It was like in the 90s, you may not have heard of it. And it stood for the Long Practitioner Network. And you could become a member of this association if you saw patients for no less than 30 minutes. You had to have half-an-hour appointments. And if you scheduled half-an-hour appointments, you could join this association. And I'm going, well, there's nothing wrong with that if your technique takes all that time. And I know some pretty advanced AK people, and they can do their whole thing in like 6 minutes, and they're flying, right? But I'm like, what on earth would you do in half an hour? It's remarkable. So these people had such low self-esteem, they judged the value of what they did on time and not on the service they were providing or maybe necessarily on results. So anyway, we decided to have kids because we wanted to have kids in the photo. which is kind of fun. Then we wanted more overhead, right? Who likes overhead? So we bought a building and increased our overhead. That was kind of fun. Changed the name to Dynamic Chiropractic. No, not after the magazine, but I love the name Dynamic because it summed up what was happening in the body, what was happening in our practice. There was always different stuff going on. Girl on the left was a CA, became a chiropractor and started working in one of our offices. Put together a mission statement. Haven't got time to read it tonight, but who's got a mission statement? This changed by 2 words in 11 years. 2 words in 11 years. And if you're kind of not exactly where you want to be, sit down one day and write your mission statement. Take the time. This took us 6 months. Right? We refined it over time. 2 words that changed by 11 years. You go through different phases. Sometimes you want to wear a tie. Sometimes you want to have your diplomas up high. Sometimes you take your tie off. Sometimes it's kind of different how you go through these phases. I'm going to go open plan, closed rooms, gowns, no gowns. You know what I'm saying? Same as long as within the law. It's like try it. And eventually you'll find what your authentic self is. Let me say that again. Eventually you'll find what your authentic self is. So people go to practice management seminars and they get into trouble and end up before licensing boards and they were doing something or saying scripts that weren't innately them. You know what I'm saying? So it would go something like this in terms of congruency. Someone would come in and you'd say to the patient, well, you need to get your spine checked weekly as an ongoing wellness adjustment. And the person would go, okay, great idea, makes sense. And then they'd say to the doc, how often do you get checked? Oh, well, maybe once a quarter when I go to a seminar. Like, they don't even need to say or ask that. They just know you're not in integrity. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we've got to be more congruent. And the problem now is the profession's so broad. I've been here 9 months in the United States. We're on a collision course towards osteopathy, and most people don't even realize it. They don't even realize it. I think Chris Kent wrote the same thing. He wrote, chiropractic in the United States is like a boiling frog. It's slowly, slowly boiling, half a degree, half a degree, half a degree, and the frog's in there not realizing how to jump out. Well, this is our time to jump out of the pot. You know why? Because we're boiling slowly and slowly, and the friggin' thing is heading towards drugs and surgery, and you don't even realize it. So I joined the CCA. I don't have a license in California. I'll never practice in the United States. I have no interest in doing Irene Gold's, board review. Although she offered to put me through. She said, Brian, I've put some pretty dumb chiropractic through. She said, even you could pass. And I go, yeah, but I don't have 500 hours to study alkenes and alkynes again, right? You know what I'm saying? So I could do that, but I don't have time to practice anyway, right? This is my practice. You are my patients. You know what I'm saying? My students are my patients. So I'm like, well, I could do that. Then I said, who are the players in chiropractic with my paradigm in the United States? Number one, it's the ICA. Joined the ICA. Number two, it was the CCA. Got involved. Smart people. They're the ones lobbying in Sacramento. And so I say this unapologetically. I'm a member of the CCA and I don't practice here. If you're not a member of the CCA, you're a freeloader. Why? Because we're carrying you. They're going into battle in Sacramento. They're doing some cool stuff. They're digging away, plugging away, meeting politicians, doing all this stuff. And you're a freeloader. And why would you let Brian Stensler carry your can? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, imagine if I had double the members or triple the members. All of a sudden, it would be a different level of tipping point. So we've got to be in the game. Step one, got to be in the game. What's really interesting about this practice, right? When we sold it in 2002 to move to New Zealand, it was turning over almost $1 million cash. It was 5% insurance. And we saw lots of children and families because that was our paradigm. The practice closed down within 2.5 years. We sold it for $350,000 plus some equipment, about 400 grand Australian dollars, and it sold. And here's one of the things the guy did. He moved into the practice and he decided to take the kids' photo board down. And these kids have been going since they were 1, 2, 3, 5. And every time they come in, they go, there's my photo, there's my heart, don't look funny, don't look funny. I was so young then, I had a little short hair, right? One day they walk in and they went, innately or instinctively, they said, I'm not important anymore. Within 3 years, the practice closed down. Not a great business deal. Had we known that that was the person's philosophy, the buyer, we wouldn't have sold it to them. What we do know is most of the patients kept going to chiropractors. We know that because we communicate with them and hang out with them. I figured I had more time than money, and so I learned how to speak. Right? I'm still learning how to speak. It's a work in progress. And so we figured we had time to do classes. We studied people how to do classes. What's the science of getting someone to a spinal care class? I could never do that. People don't come. Science, art and philosophy getting people to a class. Science, art and philosophy getting them to bring a guest. And it's a science, art and a philosophy of getting them to sign up at the end of the class. Right? Make a compelling offer, put a time thing on it. It's a no-brainer. Right? Oh, I can't do that. They wouldn't come. I can't speak. Just put it in the diary. Say you're going to have one in a month. It'll fall into place. Get hold of someone's PowerPoints. It's a simple little formula. But unless you take the first step, right, then it never happens. Who would love to do classes but hasn't got around to it? Or used to do them and doesn't? Yeah, it's not that hard. Because most people in the audience know less than you do. And every now and then you'll be saying something and someone will know a lot more than you about a certain, you might have a neuroscientist there and you go, great question, let me get back to you. And you email Dan Murphy, right? Dan, what am I doing? Right? So if you don't, no one knows everything. So just if you have a question you don't understand, take it on notice, right? We did some research in our practice, right? And here's what we found, looking at patient files, that people got greater results within chiropractic. 90% of people got results far greater than what they ever imagined. It was like, hey, wow. And when I knew that, we put our fees up. When I knew that 90% of people were getting far greater results, because we looked at their progress, feedback forms on visit 12, and we knew that half the people within 12 adjustments were dealing with stress better, we put our fees up by 10%, because I knew we were giving more value. And if you're charging $50 and giving $45 worth of value, people will go, I'm not going to stay. If you're giving $60, $80 or $100 worth of value, they'll go, bargain. I'll prepay, can I come in advance? What's the deal? You know what I'm saying? So this was my own little research, pardon me. Then I got involved in the Spinal Research Foundation. The woman in the middle, we lobbied her. Who's doing the lobbying now? The CCA, for you, for us, for our patients, for future chiropractors. We lobbied this woman. We said we want federal funds in Australia for chiropractic research. And we took this guy on the right, who was an Australian sports star celebrity. Peter Brock was his name. Won the Bathurst 1000 race 9 times. It's like your NASCAR race. No one had ever won it 9 times. Chiropractic patient, the whole deal. This woman was in opposition. We knocked on her door, took a celebrity. The doors open like this. Like the waves come apart when you take in a sports star. Right? Who have we got access to now? Jerry Rice. Right? We've got access to General Becky Halstead. She's a chiropractic raving fan. We can open doors all the way to the top with these people because they're held in such high regard by community leaders. This woman now, fast forward 10 years, she's the 5th most powerful person in the Australian government. 5th most powerful. And a guy today, or this very recently, in the last few days, became the Minister of Health in the Victorian Parliament in Australia, which was pretty cool, right? He plugged away for many, many years. What we did though was, before we knocked on her door, we were standing on highway corners with cans, with cans raising money for chiropractic research, right? So the cars would stop at the red light and we'd walk along like people begging, can I have $1, haven't eaten today, right? Homeless people need to feed. Oh, money for spinal research. Someone would throw in $1, they'd throw in 50 cents, someone would throw in $10. Someone threw in $10 from the back of the car and said, my back's really stuffed, here's $10. That was in a working class blue collar area, you know what I'm saying? Then one day we did it, Saturday morning we'd practice, see a few people in the office in the morning, go out, on this highway collection in the afternoon, raising money for chiropractic research, stopping there, $2, $5 notes, and then someone like this, and spat on me. I was a chiropractor in the morning, chiropractor in the afternoon, begging for money, and someone spat on me. And I went, that is got to stop. Chiropractic deserves, it wasn't about me, but chiropractic deserves not to be spat on. You know what I mean? That's why we started knocking on the doors of these people. And it was kind of quite fun. So I love practice, got involved in the college. Who knows Dr. Tim Gay? Tim Gay loves chiropractic, and someone knocked on his door and said, Tim, how would you like to be on the board of Regents of Life West? He kind of asked, what's it about? What's the deal? And he joined about the same time I did. So Tim's my boss. I've got to be nice tonight and I'm not allowed to swear. He told me, don't swear. Whatever you do, don't swear. I'm joking. You guys are tough, man. Tough guys. Right? So I got on the board of the New Zealand school. Loved it. The school was in trouble. It was kind of going down. They were trading insolvent. They had no accreditation. We had 58 students. We said, what's the vision? We said we could build a college, right, and build an army, a workforce of chiropractors. New Zealand's a first world nation, right? It's got first world services. And within a period of time, we could transform the health of this 4 million country nation. That was the vision. So we just hired people, got people involved, borrowed some money, got donations, went out on the road. 58 students when we started, now it's a waiting list college. Within 6 years, we moved to a new campus. I spent like 8 years there, loved it. Got a call one day from Dr. Jerry Clum. He goes, you know what, I want to do something else in chiropractic. I've been doing this gig for 30 years. Would you have any interest in taking over? Drop the phone. Who is this? Jerry. Bullshit. Put the phone down, ring him back up again. Life West. Hi, can I speak to the president? He goes, why did you hang up on me? Right? True story. Okay, what are you joshing here? What's the deal? So it started a conversation. I met the board, had an interview, and I guess fooled them again, right? But I was the guy who didn't get into chiropractic college. Applied to the school in Australia and they said, no. And finally they sent this telegram and they said, we've had a cancellation. Send us a response within 48 hours. You've got in as a cancellation. I also failed physical therapy at the school 5 times. And in the end, the guy called me into his office and he goes, you're never going to use this stuff, are you? And he went, get out. And he gave me a conceded pass. Right? And on the 5th time I really tried, like I really tried. But he says, you're not going to use this, are you? No, get out. And so it's funny how you get rejected from even getting into school. And now I've been the chiropractor of the year in Australia and New Zealand and internationally by Parker seminars. I'm going, how does that happen? And I've been the president of 2 chiropractic schools. I'm going, that's kind of weird, right? And I was practicing as a chiropractor, loving it, like just loving it. 3.5 hour lunch break, sitting in my pool, hanging out on the phone, kind of having a cool time, seeing lots of people and stuff. And I thought, why on earth would I want to get an education? Those guys are such losers, right? Got involved on the board, just the board level, and started giving money and stuff, and then this opportunity came up, and I'm like, this is so addictive. Because imagine the responsibility and the awe of taking new people in and saying, we're going to create this experience where you come out after 3.5 years, and our vision is to make you the greatest you can be. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, once upon a time adjustments was this, and now adjustments are this. And it's just, the question is just how you think about it. The question is how you think about it. So we pulled that off in like 6 years, and it was so cool. Stayed there for a couple more years, and then we moved up here. So this is my family, right? The little girl on the left, her name's Grace Kelly, and they're still back in New Zealand. And so my wife's still back in New Zealand. I've been back in New Zealand for 9 months. And so my little girl sends me an email. She's got her own Gmail account, like she calls it Grace Mail, Grace Kelly, Gmail. Hi Dad, I've been selling lemonade outside the front of my house. I've raised out of her home. I've raised $3.50. Is that enough to come and visit you? And I'm like, oh no, right? But it's a choice, right? It's a choice because I think that my time is now here to be here, and I'm not here to make friends, right? I'm not here to make waves. I'm here to make a difference. And I come in, I see what's happening in chiropractic in the United States. I'm like, oh my gosh, people need to wake up, or there won't be chiropractic. You know what I'm saying? You won't have a chiropractic. And I got a similar email I could read you that I had a conversation with Dr. Joe Brimhall from Western States Chiropractic College. And I'm like, it was the same stuff. I'm not going to read it to you today, but it's just like, it's the same thing. And so, as I think Matt said, they look at us and they think we're dangerous, right? The guy in the UK said, you're not coming to our school, you're a danger man. I'm like, you call us dogmatic, but you're shutting down minds, not opening it up. I wrote to Dr. Brimhall and said, come down to the college, tell us all about the drugs and chiropractic, and stand there and have a conversation with our students, let them ask you questions, give them your best shot. And I went down to the Chiropractic Summit. Last week it was in Dallas, Texas. 3 months ago it was down in Orlando. And you're not allowed to talk about what happened in the summit, so I won't talk about it. But what didn't happen was the people got up and gave their best shot about why they wanted chiropractic and drugs. And when I wrote to Dr. Brimhall, I said, if that's the best shot you can give it, no pun intended, right? If that's the best argument you can give for chiropractic and drugs, I go, that is pathetic. I didn't say pathetic, I go, it dismays me that that's the best you could give. And of course, one of the arguments is, well, chiropractors aren't making enough money. No, they're not, because they're not seeing enough people. Why not? Because they don't know what they're here to do. The why, as the video said, of what you're here to do. So I cover everything in this interesting book, right? Dan Murphy gave it to me. It's called Our Daily Medications, Our Daily Meds. And see if this doesn't ring a bell. Because one of the answers they gave in the New Mexico legislature was, well, chiropractors, their income's gone down, they're not making enough money, and if they could sell drugs, then maybe they'd see more people, but they'd get a kickback from they'd make more money, right? So that was one of the arguments. Another argument was, well, there's a workforce shortage. Not enough, there's not enough primary health care or doctors. And I'm like, oh my God, this is getting dumb. If there was a shortage of plumbers, right? If there's a shortage of plumbers, would we say, well, we're good with our hands, we'll step in and do it? It's like, no. This is what we do. This is the bone, right? This is the bone. This is where we, and the paradigm of what we're offering is different to plumbing, and it's different to. But check this out if this doesn't ring a bell. I just read this the other day. This is about medicine, right? It's about HMOs and where medicine started seeing, their incomes are falling, right? So fast forward 16 years, and this sounds like chiropractic. By the mid-1990s, many American medical doctors had grown frustrated with the financial limits imposed on them by HMOs and other forms of managed care. Sounds like chiropractic, doesn't it? Insurance reimbursements doing this, right? That became unpopular in the 80s and 90s as a way of restraining medical costs. Watching their salaries stall, the doctors were easily seduced by the welcoming arms of the drug industry where the money flowed. This is the same thing, playing out in another profession. It's like, oh my God, would you sell your grandmother? Would you sell your soul? There's nothing wrong with drugs except that people take them, right? You know what I'm saying? It's the use and overuse, and it's now out of control. We'll talk about that. So I reckon there's only a short window that will be everywhere, and by that I mean our paradigm, not just the number of chiropractors. We'll be all over the place. We will own the paradigm because it was always the way it was, or we'll be gone, right? We just won't exist. And then another profession will rise, and it'll be called something else. I met a guy in Florida. He said, when I graduated, the license in Florida was a doctor of chiropractic. He said, then it became a physician of chiropractic something, and he goes, now I'm a physician of chiropractic medicine. He goes, I haven't changed what I do. And they've changed what I do. They've changed the name. He goes, how's that? Just in like 20 years, which is amazing. So as you know, if we talk about like health, what is this thing called health? Well, they've come along and they said, well, it's a deficiency of, vitamins, antibiotics, that's why is the reason you're not healthy. or it's a shortage of antidepressants, or there's a shortage of cortisone in your body, right? Or you don't have enough anti-inflammatories, all this kind of stuff. Or your body's not making enough histamine. And then they said, well, let's go to the genes, right? And if you heard me speak before, you know where this has gone. They said, well, there's mapped out 110, 115,000 genes. Let's map them out. Problem was, they only found how many? 23,000. This was going to be the next new thing. Designer babies, drugs targeted at certain genes and so forth. The problem was they only found a quarter of what they said. Fast forward a few years, right? And then we see the Time magazine of February 2009 comes out with this thing, why DNA is not your destiny. So it said, genes are, got nothing to do with it. Subtitle, the new science of epigenetics reveals how the choices you make can change your genes. Let me read that again, front cover. The new science of epigenetics reveals how the choices you make, what you think about, right, can change your genes and those of your kids. So the question is, why do people get certain cancers and they never had the gene for that cancer? Or why do people have terminal cancer and something shifts and they get over it? What is it? Oh, my doctor said I had 6 months to live. My mother said I had a lot more. I decided to believe my mother. You know what I'm saying? So one of the greatest people in and around our profession is Dr. Bruce Lipton, who was doing stem cell research in the 1960s. Right, he had tenure at Wisconsin School of Medicine. And he's been banned from speaking at Palmer College because he talks about vitalism, the big V, and he talks about the whole illusion of evidence-based chiropractic. Which is not that we're not into science, is that they're saying that the type of science that only applies is stuff that's published in journals where you had two groups of people, some had headaches and some didn't. You tried chiropractic and you saw what happened as a result. Banned from Palmer College, right? He's now the leading author with Hay House Publishing. So Louise Hay's now 83, she had cancer, she started that publishing thing. She was the one who wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life, right? She's 83 years of age, she goes on and speaks to 4,500 people, does a 10-minute cameo appearance. Bruce Lipton comes on and talks about the science of epigenetics, like our science, the science of vitalism, and wows them for 2.5 hours. And he's in the company of the Deepak Chopras and the Wayne Dyers and stuff. Banned from a chiropractic college. Work it out. So here's the thing. Society and medicine, the field of psychoneuroimmunology, they know it's about this. They're moving this way and we're going this way. No, that can't be right. We're going to run towards the failed model. It kind of defies logic. What's really interesting in California is this. In California, we're really screwed. Why? Because the people of California decided to pass Proposition 65, which said that if there's anything in an environment, a place you go to, a public place or a cafeteria or a workplace, anything that might cause cancer, you've got to display that on the workplace. Who's aware of that? Right? So here's the thing. If what you think about, you bring about, right, then everywhere you go to in California, right, has this sign everywhere, from Starbucks to McDonald's to a hospital. Probably your practice has to have it legally, and I hope you don't, right, break the law. People are walking in going, I'm getting cancer, I'm getting cancer, there's stuff here that's going to cause cancer, I'm going to get cancer. What a great belief that is, right? So I can guarantee, all other things being equal, chemicals, environment and so forth, there's going to be more cancer in California than a state that doesn't have this. Every morning someone goes and they're too now fat and lazy to walk into Starbucks, so they just drive up. But if you go to the drive-thru, you can just see it in the inside the, it's like this is craziness gone mad. Madness gone crazy. Am I speaking to the converted or? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How dumb is that, right? If what you think about brings about, why on earth would we tell the people that? So the CCA has got to go to the legislators in Sacramento and go, hang on a sec, now what we know about epigenetics, maybe we could reword this a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? What's the number one disease people are in fear of? Cancer. Of course they are, because they see it every day. We've made it worse. We're walking into it. Last month, what was the statistic of world population? What did we hit? 7 billion, right? A lot of hungry people. Eating, housing, transport, energy, they're the big ones, and it all uses oil. So we're consuming stuff on this planet. And here's what I find paradoxical. Part of the philosophy of chiropractic is the concept of holism, right? And yet really, we're not really that holistic. By that I mean we're concerned about the body, and we're concerned about what we put in our body, but not too many chiropractors in the conversation of the environment that we live and work in, right? Medical doctors for about 20 years have been running conferences on sustainability. Medical students have had a chapter for about 5-8 years on the concept of sustainability and ecology, and at world conferences. I haven't met one chiropractor who's talking about it. I did see one the other day in Australia who's got a thing on his website, which is the concept. Sustainability is defined as this. It's defined as how do I meet the needs of the current generation without compromising the needs of future generations. So American Indians don't think 5 minutes. Politicians think the next headlines. American Indians think 7 generations, right? We asked what was the precautionary principle when our children were born. We said, and about the vaccine issue, we said, well, the number of questions we want to ask. One of the questions is, do we know the long-term side effects of this, right? Could there be a side effect? Well, there could be, because it's not really natural chemicals they're putting in. Do we know what the long-term side effects are? No. Why don't we know it? Well, they're not measuring it. No one's ever asked that question. So if we don't know the long-term side effects, why don't we err on the side of caution? That would be one reason for me not to give vaccines to my kids, right, which we didn't. There'd be lots of other reasons, but that'd be like one reason. So if we're screwing up the planet, right, and we're just like trawling the oceans, and we're doing stuff that's really not going to be great for our children or our great-grandchildren or our great-great-grandchildren, and people say this, they go, we've got to save the planet. Guess what? The planet will outlive the human race. It's going to be here. But the question is, why aren't we in this conversation, which is the conversation our patients are in? You know what I'm saying? That's the conversation they're in. So I wrote a paper on it. It was kind of quite fun. I'll share it with you in a sec. But anyway, the world's weather and planetary systems are changing as a result of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and there's no now debate about that. Politicians who are like, oh, I think it's a hoax, they've read all the science. There's no debate. And even if there was a debate and you're like, well, maybe it's 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, why wouldn't we err on the side of the precautionary principle? So I wrote this piece. By the way, I used to go to bookstores and it used to say 100 places to see before you die. Remember that? 50 places to see, 1,000 places to see before you die. Go to a bookshop now, what do you see? 100 places to see before they disappear. Right? We're laughing, but it's no joke. Newsweek, front cover, 100 places to remember before they disappear. And what about this one? This is really funny, but not funny. 500 places to see before they disappear. Right? This is not being broadcast, is it? Right? We're fucking up the planet. Right? We're really fucking it up. We have no respect for this thing. And it's like, at what point do we say it's important? And I'm into a healthy nervous system. I'm into being subluxation free. I got adjusted today. It was magnificent. But we're going to be dying if we're not looking after the planet that we're taking care of. And the opportunity is immense because our patients are into this. What we did at Life West, we just put together the President's Advisory Committee on Sustainability. It's mainly a student-driven group, and their job is to report to me once a quarter with sustainable initiatives that we can do. So I arrive at the campus in February. I look up. We have 5 acres of roof space. I'm like, this is gold. So we're now doing the economics of can we have solar power on the roof and sell power back to the grid and not spend $400,000 a year on electricity that we're sucking from the grid. The students are like, this is cool. And they're the ones, this is their time. They're the ones who all vote Green in the Green Party. They're the ones who are connected, they know what the issues are and they know what the answers are. And the first thing they'll present to me in 2 weeks' time is, come January when the new quarter starts, we don't want to buy notes. We don't want to buy notepads like this. They want to say, we're happy to pay the same amount of money and get it on a memory stick. We're like, cool. In fact, we'd probably give it to them for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the questions are being answered and I think it's an opportunity we should really be taking advantage of. But we're not in that game, which is kind of sad. So I wrote this thing. I've got a copy. If anyone wants a copy, I bought a few copies. And I wrote it in the ICA magazine. Maybe we'll pass a few around. And some guy goes, well, you know, I think you should stick to chiropractic. And I said, well, you know what? I hope you're right. But I said, I'm not going to gamble the conversation on my great-grandchildren and my children because I didn't do anything about it when I was at least aware that something was going on. Then another guy writes to me, this chiropractic, only from California, and he goes, well, he said, it looks like the polar bear there is trying to eat you, you know, and I'm going, he is from California, right? He is from California. It's kind of interesting. So here's where we are, right? Stock take, here's where the system has got us, right? This thing here was Newsweek last month. You've all seen it. I'm sure you got it in your office. It was one word that can save your life. And what was the one word? No. It was like, if you've been given a diagnosis, if you've been given an opinion, if they say do this, take that drug, you need this procedure, the one word you need to say is no. Or can I wait? Or can I get a second opinion? They're kind of the 3 things. Or shove it, yeah. Here's a book I saw a couple of days ago in a bookstore. Your drug may be your problem. How and why to stop taking psychiatric medications. Like these books go on and on and on and on. And here's the really sad thing and opportunity. There's about to be 500,000 troops come back from the Middle East, right? 100,000 going to one base, I read on the weekend. And there's never been that number come back and not go into fighting again, right? Never been that number. And people are saying this, they're going, well, how do we integrate them after they've been fighting for 5 and 10 years, right? And the number one thing they've got going on, apart from physical things, is mental health issues. So they're going, we've got to screen them. And when they screen them, what do I want to do with them? Put them on more drugs, right? Put them on more drugs. In the state of Iowa, 18% of kids are on ADD or Ritalin medication. 1 in 6. That's big. That's big. 1 in 6. What's the other name for Ritalin? It's cocaine. It's a class 2 narcotic. It's speed. Would you give that to your kids? No. Look at the front page of the newspaper today. This is really scary. Front page of the USA Today. There's a surge in babies addicted to drugs. What are they talking about? It's prescription drugs that were passed through the mother in the placenta. Babies are being born. They're not having the mother's placenta, or they're not being breastfed. And these babies like scratching their eyes out, they're itching, and they're kind of curling themselves up because they're having withdrawal from prescription drugs that the mothers were on. And they have the audacity in this article to blame the mums. Oh, they're addicted to this stuff, yada, yada, yada. I'm saying who's supplying it and who's saying it's okay. Come on. Right? And chiropractors want to get into that game. We want to get in the game of saying, hey, well, we'll give half as much. That was the third reason. We'll give less drugs because we're more natural. Do you really think that's going to happen? What's the appropriate dose for an unborn child? 0. How much would you take? It's like, look at her face. I couldn't dream of it unless it was life or death. Well, guess what? It's death for these kids, right? And we're kind of asleep. And why are we asleep? This is one of the coolest books because they talk about what happened, how Big Pharma got into your TVs over the last 25 years, how they got into every community, how CVS pharmacies and 24-hour pharmacies and drive-through pharmacies opened in one generation. In one generation, it's how it happened so quick. And people were asleep because it was like creep. Little thing, little thing, little thing. So look at chiropractic, little thing. Expand the scope of practice, expand the scope of practice, expand the scope of practice. So what if we do drugs? Because everyone's doing drugs. You know what I'm saying? And chiropractors will give less. We'll make more money. Maybe your income will go up. I'm like, oh my God, the madness has to stop. Is that a question?
Just like I believe, and I think it's some evidence that left side medicine is institutionalized in this country. So how do you even begin? I have so many friends that it's so institutionalized, much like racism.
They don't even think.
Right. It's like, oh, of course I'm supposed to take this.
Yeah.
And how do you even begin to?
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word combat, but how do you begin to educate or inform?
So here's the problem.
Because
From the
it's so strong since they were 2 years old that
yeah.
all the doctor says is you could take your medicine.
It's worse than that. From an unborn child,
What do you even do?
from an unborn child was hearing 6 hours a day of television. Children are hearing 6 hours a day of television. The American Academy of Pediatricians said children under 2 should watch 0 TV. And the average is about 6 hours, right? And New Zealand and Australia, New Zealand and the United States are the only 2 countries in the world where there's direct-to-consumer advertising of pharmaceutical drugs. The only 2. So it's on and on and on and on and on. I stood for Parliament in 2008. I lost, right? And then I stayed involved in the party, and there's an election there in 2 weeks. The party that I stood for got thrown out after 9 years in government. We worked for 2 years, and it's in our manifesto now that if they got elected in 2 weeks, they're going to take out pharmaceutical advertising to the consumer, direct to the consumer. Nice. So then you're only left with America. There were only 5 people who put that policy together, right? So what do? I was sitting on a plane 2 weeks ago. I've never done this. I'm a pretty calm guy, right? Pretty calm guy. Sitting on a plane 2 weeks ago, and the aisle seat was next to me, so I had the C seat. Then there was a seat opposite, and there was a woman behind. She was about, so across and back one, across the aisle. She was maybe 55. And then there was a guy, her son, who's probably maybe in his 30s, behind me. And she's sitting there and she said, oh, honey, can you pass me the Tylenol? And it was just a reflex. Like, and I turned around and I go, you wouldn't want to take that, it'll kill you. And I'm like, did I say that? It's a true story. It was about a month ago. And then about a minute went by and I thought, oh, you can't leave her hanging like that. And so I leaned around and I went, you know what? Those things can really damage your kidney and your liver. You want to be a little bit careful. I was like, where did that come from? So in practice, here's how it's most difficult with your friends, right? Particularly if you're a healthcare provider, or your parents, because you can't parent your parents. They change your nappies, and I reckon it starts with patience, and it starts one at a time, and it starts by asking questions. A woman came in one day when I was in practice, and she said, oh, I'm on antidepressants. And I go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't pass judgment, right? When you're first year of practice, you pass judgment. Why would you take that, right? Well, they say, I just took my kids to be vaccinated. And I go, you what? Right, but you go over that, and you go. So a woman comes in, she said, oh, I'm on antidepressants. And I go, oh, that's interesting. Case history, like first visit. And I go, why'd you do that? She said, oh, well, I decided to check out of life for a while. I was like, really? I mean, chiropractic, we try and check into life. But in my second year of practice, I had an Irish nurse, a nurse from Ireland. She came in and I said, how can I help you? And I go, only medication, antidepressants. And I go, what are you on them for? Curious. She goes, oh, well, I was in South Africa and my fiance and I were doing a trek, like a safari. She goes, and we got ambushed by these African dudes, And she goes, he got necklaced. I mean, they put a rubber thing around and set him on fire and they cut his head off. I mean, oh, okay. How's your headaches? Right? I mean, how do you answer that, right? That's just an out of the box thing. So it has to start with, I used to say to people this, you know, a woman came in and she was on 11 different medications and her mother was dying of liver disease. And I said, you know what? Next time you're at your doctor, just go back and ask your doctor, what studies have there ever been done of a person about your age, female, on 11 different medications? And here's the deal, this is what I learned. Kids used to be on, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they're on one medication. Now they're on how many? 4 and 6, right? And the parents think they're doing the right thing because they say it's a chemical imbalance. It's like, oh my God, this is out of control. So I think you got to, firstly, your belief has to be your belief. So if you honestly think strongly about that, then there's strategies. So education classes. And tonight I'm going to share with you a strategy we used in practice. And when people saw it, it just blew them away. You know, but you can't take Tylenol for a headache and then say to people you shouldn't take drugs. And I know chiropractors who do. I'm like, well, that just doesn't make any sense. Last year I ended up in Monaco in a hospital with acute pancreatitis, right? I took morphine for a week and I loved it, right? That was appropriate because they say the pain of pancreatitis, the only thing worse than that is childbirth. And so I got out of hospital and rang my mum. I go, Mum, I really love you, right? But when I have a headache, I go, why do I have a headache? And when a person comes and they go, I have, a regular patient, they come and they go, I've got a headache. And you go, that's interesting. Why do you think you got a headache? And often they'll work it out. I haven't drunk enough water, haven't had enough sleep. And you go, well, that's interesting. They go, I need to get checked. I go, great, let's check you. Or how do you explain to a person, they get adjusted and then they get a headache? I ask them, I go, what do you think's going on? They go, oh, I don't know. I go, is it possible your body's detoxifying now? We've turned on the nerve to the liver and it's now working better and detoxifying crap out of your body. They go, I hadn't thought about that, but it's possible. They go, yeah, that's interesting. Is it possible we've increased the blood supply to your head and your body's going through some changes there? And they go, yeah, that's possible. So I reckon the best thing a chiropractor can say when someone says, I feel better, I feel worse, I feel whatever, is just go, that's interesting. Because we have really no idea what it means. No idea at all. So this is where we're at, right? And here's how the thing, I passed through Phoenix, right? Phoenix Airport, 140 wheelchairs as you get off the plane. Now, question, does Phoenix have a higher incidence of spinal cord injuries, paraplegic, tetraplegic, do you think? No. 140, I counted them, 140 wheelchairs as you got off the plane. These people in Arizona are so out of shape, right? They can't walk off the plane. They are so out of shape. There's 100, you can count it, there's 140. I'll send you the photo. It's like, this is out of control. Right? Now you get out of a plane, the gates are quite narrow, and there's a whole lineup of people, 6, 8, because they're so out of shape. So I'd say you want to be the person you want to be. You want to be in shape. Who knows, they could be healthier this year than they were last year, right? And it's like, well, I could get around to exercising, I could exercise more. We just don't do it, right? But you want to be the change, be so inspiring that people go, I want to be like... Our parents used to laugh at our kids when they were growing up. They had 2 choices of drinks, right? 2 choices. One was water juice, second choice, water juice with ice. And they laughed at us. 10 years later, their kids had asthma, chronic ear infections, eczema, all this stuff. They're on different medications. They'd come in and say, do you guys have different genes? No, we asked the question, what builds health in the human body? And we went to work. They could have water juice or water juice with ice. They always took ice because you could throw it down your brother's back, you could spit it, you could have fun with it. You know what I'm saying? So we decided at Life West, we said, we're going to be more congruent. We've taken Coca-Cola out of all the vending machines. All of them. Gone. Gone, no Coca-Cola. And I said to the students, I said, I'm not anti-Coca-Cola. I said, if you want to kill yourself, that's your choice, right? I said, if I go to a party and I said, and I decide to drink, which is not that often, and I decide to have a rum and Coke, I said, I'll have a rum and Coke. But I said, we're not going to supply this stuff for you because it's not going to help you be the best you. You're not going to be the best student. You're not going to be the best intern. And if you drink it daily, it's going to kill you. Why would you do that to you? Why would you rot your guts? And they go, we didn't think about that. No, you didn't think, because they grew up listening to the same TV ads, and we'll share with you what that model is. Phoenix Airport. Isn't that a card? Went up to, I was with Dr. Gay, we went up to the, this is wild, to the Washington State Chiropractic Association conference. Went out walking one morning, went to the supermarket. This is the Safeway supermarket. They're now so desperate for sales, they say, if we'll give you a flu shot, we'll take 10% off your groceries. I say, oh my God, this is insane. They can't sell the concept on logic anymore. They can't sell it on fear. So they'll go, hey, we'll save you cash. Who's more likely to do that? Lower socioeconomic people. Well, they'll do the maths. They'll go, well, if we shop for a month and spend $400, which is probably what they're spending for groceries for a month, and we spend $25, we're going to save 40, we're $15 a head. That's what this is about. They can't sell it on logic, they can't sell it on fear, and now they're trying, we'll save you money. It's insane. This is the insanity we live in, right? Who's heard of this woman, Gwen Olsen? She's my hero. Check this out. This is wild.
There's no such thing as a safe drug. By the time a drug's approved and it hits the general population, we don't know even 50% of the side effects that are involved with that drug. We were being trained to misinform people. I spent 15 years in the pharmaceutical industry working for some of the major manufacturers. It wasn't like I woke up one morning and said, I need to get out of pharmaceutical sales. It was actually an awakening process for me. It was a spiritual and consciousness process where, as I started observing what was happening, what some of the drugs were doing, the misinformation, the disinformation, that I was being encouraged to minimize side effects when I talked to doctors, I started to recognize that these patients were literally being tortured by the drugs that they were given. My niece was 20 years old. She was attending Indiana University, and she was a pre-med student. Extremely intelligent, beautiful woman, and just a beautiful spirit inside and out. She was in a car accident and was prescribed Vicodin, hydrocodone, for pain, and became addicted. While she was studying, she determined that the sedative properties of her drugs were keeping her from being able to concentrate, so she purchased some ephedra, which is a stimulant. She had a drug interaction and ended up in the emergency room at the local hospital. And they tagged her with a bipolar illness diagnosis, not a drug toxicity or reaction to the drugs that she was on. And they started giving her more major antipsychotics and mood stabilizers. And that set her on the road to becoming a mental patient. She eventually had to drop out of school after a 5-month period of trying to withdraw from Effexor and all of the other antipsychotics and drugs that they had put her on. She was extremely severely depressed, and her mom was on her way home to take her forcibly back to the psychiatrist and get her placed back on drugs. So my niece walked into her younger sister's room and took an angel-shaped lantern that was filled with oil and poured it over herself and ignited it, and she burned herself alive. It was a promise that I made to her that I would not let her memory be sullied, that I would tell people what in fact had happened to her, and that she would not be remembered as a mentally or genetically defective person, that I would not allow that to happen. And I realized that there are thousands and thousands of those people out there, and they need a voice, and I'm serving as that voice.
Now, how's this for a very scary number? In the last 10 years, the use of antipsychotic drugs on young children and teenagers has increased more than 500%. There's growing concern these drugs are being given in even greater doses to kids in foster care, putting them in a virtual chemical straitjacket. Here's national correspondent Byron Pitts with tonight's Eye on Your...
So we're talking about people's lives here, aren't we? Right? This is not statistics. This is about people in our family, like our relatives, our parents, right? Who has elderly parents, or they're all elderly, right? Older than us. And it's like you see what they take. They take these, things. It's like, oh my God, it's a one-way ticket. Why is that? Because if we gave a drug to this group of people, fantastic. Gave a drug to this same drug for the same condition to this group of people, didn't work. Gave it to that group of people, killed them, or serious side effects. Because it's a lottery. It's like just finds different receptor sites and away it goes. So here's the model, right? I used to teach this to patients. This is one of the problems with the model in chiropractic as mandated by the accrediting agencies, for example. And you can share this concept with your patients. And it goes something like this. You may or may not have seen it presented this way. So people wake up one day and they say, I feel this, right? Let's turn this down. This is cool to run a class on this with your patients. They say, hey, where's Matt? Can we maybe turn that sound down on the thing? They say, I've got a headache, I've got an ache or a pain. They say, I've got blood coming out of my ear or my whatever. This is sticking through the skin. They have some kind of thing that they can, see or feel, right? And then what do most people do? What do most men do? Denial, nothing, right? And people try some kind of home remedy, don't they? They say, well, I'll try putting up with it, I'll try whatever. And eventually after they get sick of the whatever, or it's pissing them off enough, they say, I better go and see someone. So generally in our culture, who do they go and see? Right. Or it could be some other kind of doctor. And what is the first thing that a doctor does? No, they make you wait, right? Here's a question. Do this in your office. Work out, get your staff to do the survey. What's the average amount of time that a new patient waits for you? Or a regular patient? Just do it. Do a study. Because if they're waiting too long, they're not going to hang around. They'll go somewhere else, right? Their time is more valuable. After a while, they go, she doesn't appreciate me. He doesn't appreciate me, right? So they make you wait, and then what does the doctor do? Hopefully it's that long, right? Maybe less is more. Maybe less is less dangerous. But what's one of the first things? They sit down, they do what? Case history, right? Or if it's a woman, it's a case history, right? So what's wrong? How long you had it? Does it run in your family? Better and worse? That kind of stuff. What's the next thing that happens? Before the diagnosis? Some kind of exam, right? What kind of examinations do we have available to us in healthcare? Vital signs, blood tests, urine tests. What else? X-rays? Some kind of scan, ultrasound, bloods, CT, MRI. What else? PET scans? Posture? Thermography? EMG, anybody? Yeah? What about some chiropractic tests, right? This is a chiropractic audience, yep? Cool. Okay. In the United Kingdom, maybe it's the water. In the United Kingdom, right, this is true. If you go to a hotel or you're in the city and you drink the water, there's measurable amounts of antidepressants and antibiotics in the water supply. Because people are pissing out so much of it, the filtration system can't filter it out, and it's coming back right at you.
2 years ago, they detected in San Diego.
Wow. That's insane. That is insane. So there are lots of different exams. What do we do next? You go to a doctor, what do they say? They do some kind of test and then they say, come back in 2 weeks. Then what do? They say, you've got what? This, or you've got that. Or we don't think you've got that, but we think you might have this. Or it could be this or that. So they put a label on it, right? What's the next thing that happens? Some kind of treatment. Got it? This is the chiropractic model as we taught at chiropractic schools generally. It's what people grow up with. It's how they utilize healthcare. And what's the purpose of the treatment? That's the only thing. So for example, if you go to a doctor and they say, we've got stress headaches, do they ever say, okay dude, what we're going to do is this. We've got to talk about what's going on in home life, what's going on at work. Do you travel in the traffic for an hour to work, or do you, you know what I'm saying? Do they ever do that? Not that often. They say, well, it seems like you've got stress headaches. You need to take Advil or Tylenol or something, Coca-Cola for your headache, right? You know what I'm saying? Because most people only want what? Because that's the thing they've heard on TV over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so this is fundamental. This really enlightened me in terms of chiropractic. Let's start at the top, right? You might want to make some notes. What's the problem with this model? Start at the top.
We don't care about the symptoms.
Okay, do we care about the symptoms? Okay, if you adjusted me and I said, oh my gosh, my head feels like it's going to explode, it's the worst headache I've ever had, I've never had anything like this, I would hope you'd care about that. And say, Brian, you better get your ass to a hospital. Right? If I came to see you and said I've fallen off a horse, happened to me at age 15, and my chiropractor said, he goes, what's wrong? And I go, I don't know, I fell on my back off this horse. How far? I don't know, it was like over a fence and stuff. I landed on my back there. And he touched it with a tuning fork and I went, that's kind of really sore. He goes, well, we've got to take an x-ray. He goes, you've got a broken neck. Today there's things we're going to do and there's things we're not going to do. So do we care about symptoms? Yes. We say we don't because, no, you're not wrong, but it's about the context of symptoms, right? We need to have a context. So what we don't think is symptoms are bad and we don't think no symptoms are good. That's the difference. Got it? Okay. What else about the symptoms? There's a funny saying. People go, well, symptoms are the last thing to appear and the first thing to go. That's not actually true in many health situations. I don't know where that saying came from. But it is often like an iceberg, isn't it? That something can be building up. Something can be building up in your arteries for years and years. Something can be building up in your, tooth decay can build up for years and years, no symptoms, and you're at a party on a Saturday night and you bite into an apple. That was a joke. Who bites into an apple on a Saturday night at a party? Right? So you do in San Diego, right? We did on the boat. Right. So you have no dental symptoms. You bite into an apple and your tooth cracks off, right? And it wasn't the apple, was it? And what happens in chiropractic? People say, well, I leant over to pick up my, pen and my back went on me and I've never had it before. And was it the pen? Of course it wasn't. Heavy pen, right. It was the angle and the forces and you had a weakness and it was the tipping point, right? What else is wrong with the thing about the symptoms? Are symptoms bad or are they appropriate? And I would contend this. When you're subluxated, you have a different appreciation of what your symptoms are. I'll give you an example. Had a woman once, never really had any back pain, came in, she said, I've got a few things going on, started adjusting her. She goes, I don't feel so good over a period of a few short days, like the first 2 weeks. I don't feel good in my tummy. It feels really weird. Sent off to the doctor and she was riddled with cancer. She'd had the cancer for a long time. Her sensory nerves weren't telling her about it. We turned on the sensory nerve and now she was aware of it. Enough to say, something's not right, I need to go and get this checked out. So is it possible that when you're subluxated, you're not getting the appropriate understanding of what those symptoms are? Absolutely, but we don't kind of think about that, do we? So I would say when you're unsubluxated, you feel your symptoms appropriately. And when you're subluxated, it's not unlike taking a drug. You really don't know what's going on. Farmer, right? Farmer goes to a chiropractor and the chiropractor says, well, symptoms are bad, right? We're going to give you a cortisone injection. I don't know why. We're going to give you a muscle relaxant. We're going to give you an anti-inflammatory. And you'll be back milking those cows tomorrow. And we'll give a bit of massage and stuff, but we won't do too much. The muscle relaxants will take care of it. Because the guy walks in, the farmer, like this. He goes, I've got to milk the cows tomorrow, Doc. I've got to milk the cows. So he walks in like this, and the doctor goes, the chiropractor goes, well, we'll give you some anti-inflammatories, pain relievers, and the whole 9 yards. The guy gets up and he goes, oh man, you're the greatest. You're the greatest. The farmer goes out the next morning, goes to milk the cows, blows a disc, scheduled for spinal surgery. We buy into the patient's crap that symptoms are bad. They're not bad, they're just, I don't believe you have accidental symptoms. I don't believe the innate intelligence ever said, you're such an idiot, I'm going to give you knee pain. You know what I'm saying? You're a really bad person, I'm going to give you headaches. No. You might have unresolved conflict, you might have crap going on in your mind, you might have stuff you got to deal with. Maybe you haven't enough sleep, maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you're subluxated, maybe you've got chemical toxicity, maybe you haven't eaten enough food, maybe you had too much caffeine, not enough caffeine, I don't know. But symptoms are appropriate, but they're less appropriate when you're subluxated. Next one, what about going to the doctor? Is it possible you've gone to the wrong doctor? In chiropractic we fall into this mistake when you play this game, and it goes like this. We've got a hammer in our hand and we think everything looks like a nail. Well, you had an accident, you never had headaches before and neck pain, you've now got headache and neck pain following the accident. I check your spine, you've got subluxations, it must be cervicogenic headaches. Great, that's the cause. We're going to fix the cause. And the pain could be from a broken neck, from a torn artery, from something else. You know what I'm saying? So just because if you play this game, you're not going to be right 100% of the time. This is what Reggie Gold taught me. Nothing wrong with playing this game, but know the rules because it's dangerous. And you wouldn't want it to be your mum. Oh, mum, yeah, it's just a subluxation. Come on, have 6 months of care, 9 months. Just keep going. The symptoms are going to go away. And they don't go away, one of 3 reasons. It's either not because of the subluxation, or you're not on the right segment or haven't given the appropriate care. You might not be seeing them frequently enough, whatever. Or maybe it's actually not a chiropractic issue. But who's fallen into the trap? I have. I'm guilty. Fallen into the trap where a patient comes in, you do the workup and you go, you know what? It's a subluxation causing that thing. And they come in for a period of time, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever, and you go, if we just see you for 3 more months, I know we can get you better. And maybe there are other factors going on in that person's health causing the reason is that possible? Yeah. So when you see the folly in this model and you let go of it, it's the most liberating thing. And it's not that we don't care about symptoms, it's we want to have symptoms in context. And it's actually quite liberating. And when people understand this, when you share this, do a workshop with your patients, just like this. They'll go, oh, thank you so much. No one ever told me this. What are some of the problems with the case history? And it happens on 2 sides, both the doctor and the patient.
Don't ask the right questions, or they don't remember the information.
Yeah, or a patient might withhold information. They might go, well, I'm actually seeing 3 different doctors and I want to get, more of these pain relieving drugs, so I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to 5 different medical doctors getting that. Or the patient doesn't realise that the particular thing is relevant. So a patient comes to see a new patient and they're 30 or 40 or 50 years of age. It's their first visit with you. How many of you ever say, have you ever had any accidents? Or you ask them on the entrance form and they write nil or nothing. Right? That's common, isn't it? How many of you ever then say, well, I know you've never had any accidents, but if you had had an accident, what might it have been? And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, do you ever play contact sport? Yeah, well, I did. What did you play? Oh, I played football for 10 years. Really? And you wore a helmet? Yeah, and what did you do? Well, we kind of crashed into people. Really? How many times did you do that? I don't know, maybe 10 times a game. How many years did you play? 10 years. So you did that like every week for 6 months, 10 times a week for 10 years. Yeah. I go, do you think that might have affected your spine? And they go, well, you never thought about that. I know you've never had any accidents, but if you had any accidents, what else might you have done? Well, as kids we had trampolines. Really? Trampolines are great if there's one person going boing, boing, boing. Get 2 people, do a video and you watch it and there's whiplash. Could that cause a subluxation? Yeah. And then on the same trampoline, when 2 people are going like this, boing, boing, get in the wrong, that could cause a subluxation to aggravate the first subluxation. Like all of a sudden we're building up layers of damage in the spine. Possible? Yeah. So one of the things that happens here is what? That the patient doesn't withhold the information, or the doctor may not ask the right questions or appropriate questions. The other problem is one of culture. Who's had patients of different cultures and they don't necessarily share that kind of information with you? Or it's inappropriate that there's another person in the room, or it's appropriate that they can only do their gig if the whole family's in the room. You know what I'm saying? Or some kind of religions have things that aren't appropriate when you do that. Next one. What's the problem with the diagnosis? If you get it wrong, then you're doing what? Treating the wrong thing. Has anyone ever done that? Or had that happen to you? Or no, been to a dentist and said, oh, I've got this really bad dental thing. It goes on. And you find out it had nothing to do with the tooth. It had to do with something else. You know, you had a cyst in your mouth. Or you had a TMJ problem. Get the idea? Okay. And then the problem with this is what? We're treating, just making them feel better, making the pain go away. Think of the farmer. He had a disc injury. He had serious leg pain. He was antalgic. He wanted help. But the best help he could have had was to do what? Go and lie in bed for 3 or 5 days, bro. Yes, we'll adjust you, we'll take care of you, we'll do what we can, but that's what his innate matter needed. His innate matter didn't need to go out and have more trauma. It was traumatized. He had ruptured a disc. He was ready to go, and you insulted his innate intelligence. How's that? You insulted his innate intelligence by saying it was appropriate for him to feel better. And I reckon that's horseshit. Right? Maybe he was a horse farmer. So how does chiropractic fit into that model, right? How does chiropractic fit into that model? Well, that's called the insurance model, isn't it? Yeah, it's called the treatment model. It's called the model that many of us were taught in chiropractic school. It's the model mandated to us by the accrediting agencies. So 2 weeks ago, we had our friends from the CCE come and do a mini visit at the school, and they came in for 2 days, 2 of them, and they were going through clinic records. They were doing that piece. And the guy got there at the end of the first day, and he goes, oh, I'd like to meet with you and give you an update of how we're going. I go, great. So he's kind of doing his gig, right? Well, we found this in the clinic and stuff, and I'm going like that. And I go, interesting. Because he had a different paradigm of chiropractic. He had this paradigm. I go, did you find my file in there? He goes, no. I go, I went to this, it was funny. I said, I went to the student clinic as an intern because I wanted chiropractic care. And I go, and I went in there and they said, have you got any things going on? I went, no, not really. So the case history was pretty bland. Medical and accident history, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, yada, yada. And then he said, and I said, they did chiropractic tests, right? A chiropractic exam to say I was a chiropractic candidate, which was that I had subluxation. And I was going there, and that intern's objective was to get my spine subluxation free and maintain at that. Get my spine functioning the best that it could be and maintain that for as long as possible. And the guy goes, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, we're really, really, really in trouble. I go, but can't you see, the fact that I didn't have any symptoms, I went to a doctor called a chiropractic intern. He asked me all these questions and it's well codified and I know that I need to be, I don't need to be anywhere else. He did a thorough physical exam, or this girl did a thorough physical exam, and they said, well, you're not, bleeding to death and you haven't got high blood pressure. And then they did a chiropractic exam and said, you're a chiropractic candidate. The diagnosis was no medical conditions, which I believe they were correct. Could have been wrong, but I believe they were correct. And the diagnosis was you've got this thing in your spine called vertebral subluxation, and they outlined the areas it was. And their treatment model was, let's get your spine under care. Guy had no context to that. And that's what you're up against in this thing here, which is amazing. So I'd suggest this. It's a cool thing to share with your patients. Think about it with your staff, and then ask the question, what is your model in your office? What is your model? So diagnosis success rate. Some years ago they did it at the Mayo Clinic, and on autopsy someone died of a kidney disease X, and they said, well, let's do an autopsy and see what they died of, and they realised it was kidney disease Y. And they found they're only accurate 27.5% of the time. Meaning 72.5% of the time they were treating people for the wrong condition. Right? I think now it's closer to 50%. The latest studies I've read, they're actually only right in terms of the treatment. The diagnosis half the time, which is pretty wild. Interesting model. Interesting model. It's the insurance model. So if you look in the paper, right, and you look in the media and you follow what's going on, you'll see this stuff every day because the best of the best are missing it. They're just missing it over and over again. And this was in the UK a month ago when I didn't go to that school, right? And I saw this in the newspaper. It was like the most scary thing. There are 400 women in the United Kingdom who are told that they've miscarried and they haven't. I would call that murder. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. The fault is the model. So they're saying you've miscarried, we've got to, get the baby out of you. And the baby, 400 times, at minimum, that they know about, the baby wasn't. So the paradigm is what is the problem, right? It's not we need more chiropractors or more chiropractic colleges. We need more chiropractors, right, who understand the concept of vitalism and that health is somewhat different to maybe the model here. Got it? Is this shocking? So we've moved towards this, right? And here's the game we're playing. And have anyone seen this? In one sense, this is funny. A non-chiropractic group put this together, right? And this is what a group of people think that we are doing to ourselves.
Im Süden hat sich Passassen genommen und stößt auf Stahnsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen Frohnau und Pankow. Und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Lichtenberg, Marsdorf, Karlshorst gelangt.
Mit dem Angriff Steiners wird das alles in Ordnung kommen.
Mein Führer, Steiner konnte nicht genügend Kräfte für einen Angriff massieren. Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt.
Es bleiben im Raum Keitel, Jodel, Krebs und Butter.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl! Wer schickt sie? Das hier sagen, sie mein Befehl zu übersetzen! Oh, was ist das angekommen? Da bin ich derart belogen! Jeder hat mich belogen, sogar die SS! Die gesamte Generalität ist in 2000 Haufen niederträchtiger, treuloser Feiglinge!
Mein Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie
Nicht als Feiglinge! Verreiter, Versager!
Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen, ist ungeheuerlich.
Die Generalität ist das Geschmeiß des deutschen Volkes! Sie ist ohne Ehre! Sie nennen sich Generale, weil Sie Jahre auf Militärakademien zugebracht haben, nur um zu lernen, wie man Messer und Gabel hält! Jahrelang hat das Militärformular nur behindert! Es hat mich jeden nur als wirklichen Widerstand in den Weg gelegt! Ich hätte gut daran getan! Von Jahren alle höheren Offiziere registrieren zu lassen! Ich schnarre! Ich war nie auf einer Akademie. Und doch habe ich allein aus bester Welt, ganz Europa erobert. Verräter! Von allem Anfang an bin ich so verraten und betrogen worden. Es war ein ungeheurer Verrat gehört der ganzen Volke. Aber alle diese Verräterinnen bezahlen. Mit ihrem eigenen Blut werden sie bezahlen. Sie werden das saufen in ihrem eigenen Blut.
Bitte gerne. Jetzt beruhig dich doch.
Meine Befehle sind in den Wind gesprochen. Es ist unmöglich unter diesen Umständen zu führen. Es ist aus.
Der Krieg ist verloren. Aber wenn Sie, meine Herren, glauben, dass ich deshalb Berlin verlasse, irren Sie sich gewaltig. Eher jage ich mir eine Kugel durch den Kopf. Tun Sie, was Sie wollen.
Isn't that good? Okay, I don't know who put that together. I found that on the web. Does anyone know? Anyone seen it before? It's a very interesting sociological phenomenon, because what they're saying is chiropractic research is like trying to be a square peg in a round hole. We need to do our own research and not do that method, which is really not set up for the whole body people encounter. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where you go to some chiropractic schools and they say, well, you go to the teaching clinic and they go, what condition have you got? And they go, well, I've got bulbar palsy. And they look in the literature and they say, well, there's never been a case. Sorry, we can't see you. I go, you're insane, right? They're using that model there, and then when they come down to evidence, it's what was ever published in a journal where they had case-controlled studies. Okay, let's move along. To me, this is, am I into research? Yep, I stood on the street corner and got spat on, right? I've given tens and tens of thousands of dollars to the Spinal Research Foundation. We built, dollar for dollar, probably the leading chiropractic research program in the New Zealand school, where Heidi Harvick's doing research into the brain. It was phenomenal. Would outrival any other chiropractic school, dollar for dollar. But I think if you know, we're not anti-evidence, right? We're not anti-science. It's like, here's the context, that there's three types of evidence. One is your own experience. Two is your judgment. And lastly, the published literature of which we are aware. So you can't just rely on the science, because what if someone comes with a new condition that's never been heard of before and it doesn't exist? You say to the person, sorry, I can't help you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know why we buy into that. And I think it's because we want to be like the men in white coats. So here's what we did at Life West. The last quarter, I decided that interns in the health centre, chiropractic centre, wearing white coats was the most ridiculous thing. They were like vets, or nurses. So this quarter, we have no clinic jackets. Right? They have to dress professionally, they've got their name tags, but there's no white clinic jackets. It's like, save it for the anatomy lab, right? Don't wash it and recycle it and try and wear it with your patients, right? We've got to have congruence. Okay. So Hippocrates, I don't like the word therapy. He said experience combined with reason. Reason means logic or philosophy was the way of the future. And here's a dude who was writing about subluxations in 400 BC, 24 centuries ago. D.D. Palmer said this in 1910, why not as chiropractors give innate an opportunity to functionate normally instead of trying to conquer disease? Don't you love that word, functionate? It's my new word, functionate. So I'm going to talk about the mind, right? I'm going to share some things with you written by some pretty serious dudes. Because what's the answer? We've got to think differently first. We've got to think differently first. I met a chiropractor the other day. He's got a busy practice. He sees 600 people a week and has done for like 20 years. His wife's at chiropractic college and his 2 kids are at chiropractic college. And he went to a seminar a month ago and he came back and he goes, I've decided I'm going to double my practice. Like 600 is a great practice. And he's been practicing 20 years. He goes, yep, I'm going to see 1,200 a week. I go, what are you doing, man? He goes, I see it, I see it, I see it. You know who it is, Tim. And he goes, I decided to get up early and I'm decided to visualize. And I go, how are you going? He goes, I'm busy, man, I'm busy. He's not at 1,200, but he's busier than 600, which he was at for a long, long, long time. So let's talk about the mind, right? Read this out with me. Let's go together. Thoughts are things. What you think has a huge impact on your environment, whether you can see it or not. Be careful what you think about. Emerson, let's go. The ancestor to every action is thought. The ancestor to every action is thought. Deepak Chopra's got a cool thing. He goes, what was the thought before it was a thought? That's pretty wild. But you can decide tomorrow you're going to be happy or sad or depressed. And someone, what do they say? They go, oh yeah, I didn't register by Friday. It's costing me extra $15 tonight or something. Okay. I reckon tonight's worth $500. I know it is. If you get one idea out of this, it's worth $5,000. Hanging out with chiropractors, changing the consciousness. I know chiropractic in San Diego will be different tomorrow after the next 15 minutes, right? We're heading towards the home straight. Listen to this one. This is way cool. Napoleon Hill. Let's go. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. What book did he write? Biggest selling book of the 20th century, second only to the Bible. Think and Grow Rich, right? How many million copies have been sold? Millions. Tens and tens of millions. And he wrote it 100 years ago, and what did he write it about? This. And since that time, there's been how many books on positive thinking and pop psychology? Hundreds. This one is the granddaddy of them all, right? He studied the minds of the greatest people. Well, did you know this about Napoleon Hill? He had a son who was born without ears. Did you know that? Born without ears. And he goes, now he's 85 years of age. He says, Napoleon Hill has a health pattern equaling that of a man half his age. His formula for good health is, quote, I eat sparingly, work enthusiastically in the labour of life. Why on earth would someone want to retire at 50? This dude's humming at 85. Linus Pauling invented or discovered vitamin C, still going to the lab at 84. Right? The father of applied kinesiology, still practicing at 90. Right? I love generously, and I take chiropractic adjustments once a week whether I need them or not. You need a copy of this and you need to give it to all your patients, post it on your website, put it on Facebook tomorrow. One of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. He goes, his son was born without ears. My son was born without ears. The two physicians who brought him into the world warned me that Blair would always be a deaf mute. I warned them my son would eventually have his hearing 100%. What could he see in his mind? He could see hearing. Quote, the true story could not be told until the two physicians who brought him into the world had died because they were Blair's uncles and they objected to the way and method of bringing complete recovery to his healing. Oh my God, I've got to wait till my uncles who are doctors died before I try something else? Quote, up to the age of 18 months, Blair could not hear a sound. We tried every known test and Blair had been examined by many specialists all over who said he would never hear. No hope, no hope, no hope, no hope, no hope. What did Napoleon Hill think? He's going to hear, 100%, no doubt. Quote, then a miracle began to happen. I took Blair to a chiropractor who began giving him adjustments against the objection of his mother. So that was the mother and the other relatives, right? By the end of the first month and after adjustments 3 times a week, we knew Blair that was beginning to hear. Who sees an 18-month-year-old 3 times a week? Well, Napoleon Hill's chiropractor did. He would turn his head to listen when I clapped my hands behind his back. The adjustments continued until Blair was 4 years old. By that time, chiropractic had developed 65% of his natural hearing ability. It then goes on to say he got a hearing aid for the rest and he just graduated from graduate school. Right? I began taking chiropractic adjustments. So Blair started first, right? And then he went, he was the parent followed. And I've continued to do so for the past 50 years. So it's no good you validating yourself and telling you how great you are. You want someone else to validate chiropractic. This is one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. Perhaps this explains why at age 85, my annual physical checkups fit perfectly with the health pattern of a man not over 50 years of age. I take chiropractic adjustments regularly not to get well, but to keep from getting sick. Napoleon Hill. Isn't this wild? Wasn't this worth the price of admission? Listen to the last statement, right? Quote, with this public statement, I have paid a long overdue debt which I have owed to chiropractic for saving my son from going through life as a deaf mute and myself from being an old man at the age of 85. Do you think Napoleon Hill, when he started chiropractic, I mean every week for 50 friggin' years, believed it was going to be great for his health? Or did he think, oh, I don't know, insurance is going to run out after 6 visits? He had no doubt, no doubt. We had the other week at school, at the college, the woman who runs, the chiropractor runs the Oklahaven Children's Chiropractic Centre come and speak with us. What's her name? Bobby Dosher, right? She's been the chiropractor there looking after these disabled children since 1977. They have cerebral palsy, they have Down syndrome, they have the worst of the worst mental conditions written off by medicine. And they go, great, bring your parents, come and live in the thing. We're going to cook natural food and we're going to adjust them several times a day. She shows photos of these before and after kids. You want to get her to come and speak here. You've never seen anything like it in your life. If you thought ears were an amazing trip, she had a kid who was born without any feet. Kid's like 2 years of age, starts adjustment, grows feet. It doesn't matter. Oklahaven Children's Centre. And I said to Bobby Dusher, I met her 4 years ago in New York and I heard her speak and I was a bit of a neophyte because I went up and I go, what technique? I heard her speak and I was like in tears. I'm going, oh my gosh. And you see these kids who whack their heads into the wall every day because they've got so much intracranial pressure, right? Written off. They start having adjustments 2-3 times a day, every day, eating healthy food. And they start, getting their sanity back, their brain rewires. That's what's happening. Neuroplasticity follows cervical adjustments. And I went up to her and I go, Bobby, what technique do you practice? And I was like, and she goes, chiropractic. And I went, oh, you idiot. She goes, right? But she goes, but we have an upper cervical focus. So the question is this: what's your doubt about chiropractic? What's your doubt? Or what's possible? Right? What's possible? Check this out. This is cool. Albert Einstein. Let's read it together. All conditions and all circumstances in our lives are a result of a certain level of thinking. When you want to change the conditions and the circumstances, we have to change the level of thinking that is responsible for it. Next one. William James. Let's go. The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. Right. This is nothing new, right? We all know it. But let's say all these guys are wrong. Take it out for a road test and just see what might happen in your life and or in your practice. But imagine if what we took it out for a road test was the profession. And we said we're unstoppable, we're going to the top. Chiropractic school is going to be full. We're going to graduate outrageous human beings who are off the charts and practice ready when they graduate. Possible? I know it's possible because that's what I see. Right? What did the Buddha say? Let's go. We are what we think. All that arises with thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. You could rewrite that. I wouldn't be so to deal with the Buddha, but you could say, with our thoughts, we make our world. Right? You make your own reality. That's what he's saying. Now it gets pretty wild. Gandhi. Let's go. A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. Did you know Gandhi had a chiropractor in the 1940s? You knew that. It was published in the Chiropractic Journal in 1942. What did he have? It said, ever since India's great saint took chiropractic adjustments, these health bulletins concerning his health have disappeared and no longer occupy the columns of the newspapers. He had some heart or lung condition or something. And the chiropractor lived in his house and gave him adjustments for several months. Right? You want to give a copy of this to your patients. What did he have? What did he have? High blood pressure. Unbelievable. Gandhi saw a chiropractor, had his own live-in chiropractor. Right? Awesome. Let's go. Frank Outlaw. What's your thoughts? They become your words. What's your words? They become your actions. What's your actions? They become your habits. What's your habits? They become your destiny. So it's an inside job. It's above, down, inside out. I spent time with a billionaire last year, hung out at the guy's house and stuff. It was amazing. And I wanted to know how a billionaire thought. And you read those books, The Millionaire Mind, stuff. Guess what he has? He has a pencil and paper beside his bed when he goes to bed at night. He goes, I wake up at night, I have these ideas and I write them down. B.J. Palmer talked about that as thought flashes. He had a pencil and paper. Woke up in the night, wrote an idea down. Right? But if you go to bed angry, subluxated, fighting with your partner like this, you're not going to have a great deal of inspiration come your way. You've got to be kind of like available. Right? I would contend if you eat a lot of animal products, a lot of dairy, meat, all that kind of stuff, that's the main part of your diet, your body's more toxic and less alkaline. Your system is not as clean and not as clear. And this movie here, I've bought 11 copies of this, given it to my parents, my friends, my family. I've dubbed copies off and given it to lots of people. And I've just read the book called The China Syndrome for the second time, which is what this is about. Now, just check it out. You can get it for $20 from a movie store. Or come to the thing. If I was in practice, I'd run a movie night for my family, for my patients. We're having a movie night for the students next week about the movie. It's about, eating a bit more healthy. So here's my favourite. Let me finish with this. Max Planck. Max Planck won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1918. He was awarded it in 1919. They waited a year before they gave it to him. Let me read you what Max Planck said. And this is what the argument in chiropractic is about at the moment. It's about, is it about a mechanistic view of the world? Is the body a machine? Are we born with not enough chemicals? Do I need more drugs? Or do we live in this energy field? Right? Is it a vitalistic world we live in? If you listen to all those dudes, Gandhi, Emerson, Frank Outlaw, who else? The Buddha, what were they saying? It's an inside job. Let me read this to you. He gets the Nobel Prize for Physics nearly 100 years ago, right? And this was when quantum physics, took off, just before 1920. As a man getting the Nobel, this was a speech, excerpt out of a speech, getting the Nobel Prize, not for airy fairies, like as Adolf Hitler said, but for physics. Here's what he said. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter. What's matter? Things, right? This is matter. We have the material body, material things. I can tell you as a result of my researching about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force there exists the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. D.D. Palmer was ahead of Max Planck. He was way ahead of his time. And in chiropractic schools they're not even getting into the work of D.D. Palmer. When Bruce Lipton in 1986 read D.D. Palmer's work, that's the day he walked out of medical school and out of a tenure at an institution. He said, I'm out of here, I'm done. He goes, this is it. So like, where's the gold? It's right in front of us. It's right here. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. That's the most exciting thing. Okay. Things don't change, we change. So what's happened in chiropractic? Well, in 1994 there were 16,000 people studying chiropractic. Now there's less than 9,000. A chiropractic school in California recently closed, right? Enrollment's doing this. And it's like, why would anyone want to become a chiropractor when chiropractic means ear candling, hemorrhoid treatment? What does chiropractic mean? If we went around the room here and asked 100 of you, you'd all come up with a different answer. If we went out with the public and asked 100 people, they'd give a multitude of answers from, we have no idea, if they'd arrived from a new country, or something quite bizarre, and we'd be embarrassed if they gave that as an answer. You know what I'm saying? So the solution is we've got to think differently. Thinking will lead to actions, but it's what do you think about? Do you listen to the news and watch Fox News and CNN? I don't have a TV in my house, right? I live on my own, but I don't have a TV. Doesn't it keep you company? No, it would drive me mad. I go, if I want to go crazy, I go to like chiropractic summit meetings, right? So what do I choose to think about? I choose to read inspiring things. I choose to listen to great music. I like to watch great artwork. I like to hang out with great people. That's what I do. I do it like 6 days a week. I hang out with great chiropractors, and they're right here. And if you're struggling in practice, hang out with someone else. Grab hold of them. Can I take you out for lunch? Can you come around and, you know. We've all got troubles, challenges. It could be personal, financial. Your practice might suck or whatever. All you've got to do is go home tonight and say, my life doesn't suck. In fact, you wouldn't say that because you're using the word suck. Say, my life is amazing. Just start saying that and see what happens. Write it on the mirror in front of your thing. Right? It's amazing what will start to show up. So here's what we know. But what you think about leads to your emotions. No one's in control of that except you. You know, we live in this like whole pity party thing. Leads to behaviours and then to results. 600 a week's a fair practice for 20 years. The guy decided he wanted to double it. Unbelievable. What you think, what you feel, your habits, and your outcomes. I want different outcomes. I've got to change. It's an inside job. It's an inside job. So, to go back to your question before, great question. You've got to think, in my view, we've got to think as chiropractors, the vision for our patients has got to be way above what they ever imagined. If they come in and they're complaining about this, that's their need, that's why they're there. You've got to be thinking their great-great-grandchildren. Might be difficult if they're a lesbian or gay, right? San Francisco, but you know what I'm saying? You've got to be thinking generational and planetary, not I can fix your ache and pains and you're worth 20 or 30 or 50 visits to me. If that's what you're thinking, that's as good as it'll get. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking chiropractic schools are going to be full. I know they're going to be full. There's no doubt about that. The question is what school they go to. So we sat down with the school and the board said, where do you want to take Life West? And I go, no, dudes, and dudesses. Where are we going to take it? Right? We're in this together. It's not my school. I'm just the guy carrying the torch out the front. So then I said, what's the vision of the school? And no one could articulate it. Then I went and met Sid Williams, right? And he goes, well, I gave the school to Jerry 30 years ago. And I talked to Jerry and I looked on the poster. I couldn't find a clear vision. So we sat down for 2 days, didn't we, Tim? And we said, well, you can only arrive at a vision if you're clear on what's important to you. So we said, this is the Life West values. And I would say, if you know what your vision is in your practice, start with what's important to you. Is it families? Is it non-symptomatic care? Is it lifetime care? Is it athletes? What is it? So we said this, and we've really annoyed some people in chiropractic, and some chiropractic educators who go, you guys are crazy. And I would say, we don't care. This is who we are. You can be whatever you like, but this is who we are. This is why I get out of bed. This is why I've left my family and wife in New Zealand, because I'm on this journey now. This is my, this is our time. If it relates to you, we'd love your support. Number one, we value the philosophy of chiropractic and the understanding of vitalism, holism, and innate intelligence. Some schools don't even teach innate intelligence. I'm going, well, what do you teach? They've taken out the philosophy, they've taken out the technique, so that just leaves science, and it's biomedical science. We value congruence in chiropractic and living a congruent chiropractic lifestyle. We value quality and make a commitment to excellence in all we do. We don't have a debate about the subluxation. There are lots of debates about it. But we say that we value the seriousness of the subluxation and its effect on individual and global life expression. Let me say that again. We value the seriousness of the subluxation and its effect on individual and global life expression. So if you think marbles and you think waves, the ripple effect is and holism, it affects the whole planet. If someone in your community is subluxated, that affects their family, their community. Driving on the road, it doesn't stop. That's how big it is. Number 5, we value the power and specificity of the chiropractic adjustment in restoring the integrity of the nervous system. We value the environment and have a commitment to a sustainable future. We value a purpose-driven life. We value the profession's history and heritage. We just brought in a new history course. We value the concept of loving, giving and serving, and we value integrity and ethics. That was our values, non-negotiable. And out of that we said, well, so what's our vision? And we said to the board, I said, we're not going to leave till we got this work done. It took 2 days. We walked out after 2 days and here's what we said. We said the vision of the institution isn't about chiropractic. Sorry to disappoint you. It's not about chiropractic education, it's not about subluxation, it's not about the nerve system, not even about healthcare. It's got to be bigger than that, right? That's the vehicle. That's the trajectory. But we walked out of it and said the vision of the institution is to create a brighter future for humanity. And we had goosebumps. We said, holy crap, that's a pretty powerful thing, ride to be on. So if you think about going to chiropractic school, that's who we are. Now, have we reached that ideal? No, we've got a lot of work to do. But it's an exciting journey. We hired a woman from Stanford, PhD in social anthropology, been at Stanford for 7 years, been with us 4 months. She goes, those CCE, I'm not saying this, she goes, those CCE guys are idiots. I go, why? Why do you think? Why do you think? She said, because their concept is one of homogeny. I go, what's that? She's an anthropologist. She goes, they've developed a cookie cutter approach to chiropractic. They want everyone to look and be the same. She goes, that'll be the downfall of the profession. And she has no philosophical bias to chiropractic, been in the game 4 months, and she goes, and it's what the movement's about. And she's an outsider to our world. So this is the road we're on. It's kind of quite exciting.